engineers like you have a lot to do. So the topic for today we have is technology for autism spectrum disorders, and can we create a positive impact? So my answer would be yes, we can create a positive impact. Now, what do you think your answer is? Can we create a positive impact? Can you all speak up, at least a few?
Actually, I'm not sure about what exactly are we looking at, ma'am. So I don't know. Okay, once the session is over, maybe we will be able to give a clear answer.
Clear idea. Very good. So thank you for that. Some interactions would help us go forward a little more. That's the reason. Okay. So to me, I believe that technology can create a positive impact. And after this lecture, I want each one of you also to believe that there is something that can be done to improve the life of people with autism. So basically, when understanding autism, I'm sure that by now you would have heard about what are the difficulties that a person with autism will suffer. But just remember three things that a person with autism will have difficulty in. So one is that they are not able to communicate. Sometimes this happens to us also, right? I say something and the other person need not understand exactly what I intended to say. So this is a huge problem with us, and imagine it is 100 times higher in people with autism. They have something in their mind, they are not able to communicate, they are not able to express it in the right way. So naturally, what happens? They will never have friends. So when there is no friends, naturally the person gets depressed. The person feels alone. There may be a lot of anger in them. So these kind of things can make them a person who's not very approachable also. So two things now you've studied. One is that they cannot make friends. Second thing is that they are not able to communicate what exactly is there in their mind. Okay. Now, along to talk all this, like how we put masala, they have a lot of sensory issues. What do you mean by sensory issues? See, sometimes we have this difficulty when there is an iron rod getting rubbed against another iron sheet. You get this sensation of irritability in your teeth and in your skin. So you don't feel all right. You just want to run away. With people with autism, now this happens 100% of the time with many things that is around. For example, a clock that is ticking can be too much of a nuisance for them. A fan sound can be so difficult for them to tolerate. A light can be difficult for them. So imagine the pressure that this person can undergo when they are in a room, maybe a classroom, a workplace. So this kind of sensory overload also depresses them, also puts them down to not being very functional at all. So just remember these three things whenever you meet a person with autism, or whenever you have a chance, or if you are trying to explore in this area, that they have difficulty making friends, they will not be able to communicate properly, and they have a lot of sensory issues. Okay. So is that clear? Can somebody answer me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes.
Great.
Yes, thank you. So now the next slide I have just put in about what is happening now and what can we expect in the future. See, there are a lot of work that have happened in the field of autism, and there are many places that they have successfully been accommodated. one of the highest, extraordinary capacity of what the Israeli defense have done is that they have come out with a program called Roy Mohak. Now, this program, you know what Israeli defense is one of the very highest world's intelligent defense system. Okay. Now, they recruit people with autism they started with two things. One is to analyze the aerial maps. So when I say aerial maps, what do you understand? A person with autism have a very huge capacity for pattern recognition. So that's the reason why they take them up for analyzing the aerial maps, satellite photographs. So any change in the photographs or in the aerial map with yesterday to today, better than a computer, they can spot it out. You have to teach the computer through AI to get the computer know this, but with people with autism, not necessarily. I'm not saying all, but at least a very good proportion of people can do this. Now they have tried to develop this, and they've moved forward on the software development, programming, information sorting, electro-optics, and electronics. So these are the areas into which people with autism have been utilized in Israeli defense. SAP is another company which has its headquarters in the Silicon Valley. They have 10% of job reservations in testing and programming for people with autism. So this also is a part of their otherwise, inclusion and things like that. But they are using a robotic program to teach programs. So I have personally seen this. What they're using is that they're using Legos, which can communicate to each other, which are programmed so that the robots can be developed. So they are basically teaching coding through Legos, and they are shifting them for the programming development. Now, what happens is that, when I said in the second slide, they're not able to communicate, they do not have friends, and they have a lot of sensory issues, but they're best friends to the screen. If you take an average, a person with autism would love to spend their time in front of a screen. Now, the screen exposure is so high that they're always attached to a gadget. They always want a mobile phone. There were parents who come and tell us that their 3-year-old son may not know to speak a word, is not doing their daily activities like brushing or taking a bath, but knows everything about inside the mobile phone to move, navigate, open the files, listen to the music that they want, or even play games. They're very good with games. So, over the years, initially, there was a lot of, almost all approaches was towards, getting them to speak and getting them to be with the environment. But there was another group of researchers and another group of people who also looked at looking at the strengths. They have a strength in pattern recognition, visual recognition. So these strengths were tapped, and those were strengthened enough so that they would be employable at some particular point of time. Now, is it okay? Can I move forward?
Perfect. But I have a query, ma'am.
Okay.
You were mentioning about this training the robots and using Legos. I didn't clearly understand what exactly do you mean by Legos.
Yeah, Legos are Lego. You've seen Legos, right? For 3-year-olds, we play with a small building blocks called Lego.
Okay. That one. Okay. Yes.
So now these Legos are incorporated with a robot in the robotic framework, so that these Legos communicate.
Okay.
Got it. So if you are interested, in 2012 there was a Denmark company who came up with this idea. And
Okay.
he started training. It's called a specialist train. Uh,
Okay.
I don't exactly know what is the word meaning means, but it's a Denmark company, and they are providing worldwide training on developing coding skills through Legos.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah. So just check on. See, more than this, I also don't know a lot about technology. So you can just browse through to find out what is being done. But let me tell you, they were pioneers in this, and they are doing a good job. But they're extremely costly. There were two times that these Legos were brought to India, one by a company in Bangalore, but unfortunately, our customs threw it out
Okay.
because they
Okay.
never understood it. So we in India it is still not so developed. But I'm just giving you all the things because you are the people who know.
Yeah, sure. We'll check it out, ma'am. Sure.
Yeah. So before I move forward, I want to set a stage. Okay. Now remember this: whatever you are building, whatever you are making for another person, should be with these four things. So let's abbreviate to small set. Okay. You should know whom you are giving this for. Who is a student in front of you? What are their difficulty? Do they have a mild difficulty or do they have a moderate difficulty? Or they have a severe kind of communication difficulty, they are too violent, or is it that you just prompt them and they are able to do things. Now what happens in the industry is that any technology that has been developed has the uniform pattern. So maybe I will not require it, but what is coming to me has the only this limited features or these excess features, which probably do not make me a user-friendly gadget to me. I hope you're understanding what I'm trying to say. So you need to know to whom you are catering to. What is the environment that this person will use this gadget? Is it at the school or is it at the home, or is he going to take it to the meeting? So with that the features is going to vary. What are the tasks that you're going to teach a child or an adult through this? Is it that basic skills like daily activities of brushing and teething? Is that what I'm going to teach? Or is it higher level of coding and programming that I'm going to teach? And what is a tool that I'm going to use? So these are the things any developer should think in mind when they are making things for accessibility in disability. Okay, if that is okay, I'm going to the next slide.
So we are developing the technology. So when we are developing that, we have to take into consideration the set. That is
Yes, yes, that's what I meant. See, now what happens is that there is a lot of time that, there is a rejection rates are more. They might use it for a little time and then they dump it.
okay.
Okay, so the reason why that happens is because we are not able to, we are developing, but not knowing which environment it is getting placed.
Exactly. So
Sorry.
depending, because the spectrum is very wide, whatever we develop, it may suit one person, but may not be the required one for another set of
Another one.
persons.
So you should have upgradable versions, scalable versions.
Okay.
Okay,
Sure.
so
Okay.
I did not put this in my slide, but there is another concept called universal design for learning
Okay. Okay.
that incorporates, content development in all possible modalities so that everybody can use it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, how you assess it also varies on depending on who the user is. So
Okay.
it's like a universal design, so that one thing. So whenever you make a gadget, remember to incorporate all features depending on the universal design. So it should be interactive, okay, and it should be able
Interesting.
to the content should be deliverable, and it can be received by everybody. So that's another thing which you should think about when you are developing any programs or any softwares, anything. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay,
So
ma'am.
basically, what I talked to you is about this blended learning environment in classrooms. You know what is blended? The same thing has to happen here when we are making our tools. Okay.
Okay.
Now, I've just put this article just to know that this is where we started. Okay, we did a paper in 2017 published by Taylor and Francis. It was an international journal. Till around 2015, we actually did not use much of technology at NISH. But from 2015 onwards, we published this in 2017, means 15 onwards, we started to work. Okay. Now, after around 2015, we started understanding the capacity to which the technology can help our regular therapy. Okay. So now this is a case study wherein a child came to us at around 3.5 years, and this child was not speaking, and the mother was extremely depressed because she couldn't leave the child even for a minute without her custody. Because he used to like eating detergents, soap, dish, toilet cleaners. Now, what will the mother do? Mother was totally distressed. He was not speaking a word. And we started with our regular traditional therapy, thinking that, there would be some change. But unfortunately, what happened was that, he wasn't picking up so well as what we expected. Uh, then we told the mother anyways that, you try putting him to a school and let's see what happens in the school. He wouldn't sit in the classroom. He would jump up. But one day the mother realized that, he knows some alphabets. Okay, then we told the mother, okay, now let's explore that area. We will make him read and write. So we gave him an alphabet board and told him, you identify the letters. He wasn't progressing at all in that area also. Uh, then we said that by then, traditional ways. We also started some words and writings and all that. Anyway, he wasn't progressing much. He was very, very lazy to write, extremely lazy to write. But one day, when we were trying to tell him something, he just wrote no. Okay, so with that, we just got hold of one hint that he has something he can write, he's so lazy to hold a pen and write. We decided that we will get a laptop for him. And so we brought in a laptop, immediately told him, you type this. Do you want to type? He said yes. And he wrote yes. Okay. So to our astonishment, this child was not formally. No alphabet education. I guess he knew till F for G. No formal education in terms of reading and writing was given, but he was able to tell. He was able to answer us when we asked a question. So this opened up a huge new possibility in us because we started helping him to communicate using a computer. So with that, since he was around 4.5, 5 years by then, we gave some adaptations to the computers like a QWERTY keyboard where the keyboards are colored so that a child, it would be a little attractive for the child, but he refused. He did not accept that. He typed onto a regular computer. Uh, Little prompts are required, but that was one way he could communicate what was there inside his mind. You ask a question and he would type in simple words or in simple sentences what he didn't like it. Or he could even tell us that, if one of us entered the room and he's not happy about it, he would say, please move out. He wouldn't say please, he would say move out. So to that level, when he also communicated, his problems also started to settle down. Okay. Now, after that, how we moved him to was that we from a computer, which was very comfy, which was from a laptop, which was very comfortable for him. He moved to a tablet. So with tablet, one advantage was that he could take it to anywhere. So when he's going to the classroom, he's able to take that. When he's going to a public place, onto a market, whatever, he's able to type in through a tablet. So that became an extremely easier way for him to communicate. And then from then onwards, we also developed something called as a computer assisted learning program for people with autism, because that's when we realized that they are able to learn a lot of things through e-learning platform. And since the computer itself is not so authoritative and commanding, they're really happy to be with them. They don't feel very pressurized to communicate or to sit in front of the in front of the computer. So that was another big advantage that we thought, and now we've started another program. So there are two things that came up from 2015 was that we started using a lot of computer applications for not for very young children, but when they're almost into the school level, that's where we use now. Okay, so can I move forward?
Yes. Ma'am, what about the other issues with that child? Was he, again, once you started communicating, did it settle down? Like you mentioned, like he was eating detergents, soaps, and so on.
A lot of things. We also started giving occupational therapy along with it. We learned through him many things, like how chewing can be achieved and what is that sensory overload that was making him chew these kind of pungent things. So a lot of things, when he started communicating, started coming down, because he was also trying to regulate himself. Okay. He was also not in a position to make himself any better. So with that, with this, his attention was also slightly diverted, and we understood what he wants, and so things started becoming better. I wouldn't say.
Usually, the children who is having this autism, they'll be singing the songs and something like lullabies, so that they'll be engaged. So this child, in this case, he was not even singing songs, or was it something like?
He used to hum the intonation, but not singing.
Not singing. Okay, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. Now coming to for the past a decade, not completely a decade, but past 8 years, there was a lot of gadgets or development in terms of technology that happened to improve communication. Because communication was one of the biggest challenge for anybody. If you are a human being, then there is no way you can live without communication. So how it evolved was that there were some mid-tech strategies and some high-tech strategies came up. There is low-tech and no-tech also. No-tech includes that, making picture cards, performing picture card exchanges and all, which we were doing traditionally. But eventually we moved to starting using mid-tech strategies along with these, along with this no-tech strategies for teaching communication to a child with autism. Okay, now where we are now is on a high-tech strategies where we're using, very complex hardware systems to integrate communication and other developmental features in them. So I just said this because, when you are developing, when you have a mindset to develop something, you can think even about a mid-tech strategy if you are not able to do exactly a high-tech strategies. Now, basically, what developers speech-generating devices. Now, speech-generating devices which are portable came in being, so that they can take it to any communication situation that they want. Now, it is just a panel of switches. When activated, it will just give a pre-recorded, digitized or a synthesized speech output. And see that one thing what is important is that you have to decide whether it is a standalone device or it is installed onto a tablet or a phone. So obviously when we started, we used standalone products. That time the platforms weren't so high that integrated products were not available. Remember your set wherein is it the understand the student? If it is a student who can navigate and take up other options, then it's very difficult to have an integrated system, make it a standalone. or you can start with a standalone system and move to an integrated system. So these are the things which you have to keep in mind when you are designing something. Okay. Now, these are the various products that we started using. One on your right bottom corner is a Big Mac. Big Mac just does, it's a plain device wherein it would just say yes or no. So we had a child whose mother came to us and told us that he was 14 years when by the time they came to us. And one night he was so distressed that he was getting too angry, violent at home, and the mother was not able to understand why. Now, what happened was that this mother accidentally took him to the toilet, and he barely pissed and came back, and he was happy. He slept. So, can you imagine that distress that family went through at that point of time, not knowing what this child wants? So here he was taught, when he came to us, he was taught to respond to simple commands as yes or no using a speech generating device. Now we could have done it in the picture cards, or we could have done it. We started in a low tech and then moved on to using a mid tech strategy. Now, why a device is important here is because if this mother, a 14-year-old child's mother, would be nearly in her 45s. Now, if she is not at home for some reason, this child will not be able to communicate with anybody. So that's where the speech generating devices becomes very important. Because anybody asking a question, you want to eat something? Yes, would give a better life for that child at that moment, even if the mother is not there. So these are simple devices which makes life easier for a person in the lower spectrum. Okay. You can see GoTalk. GoTalk is another device which we use at NISH. This has some picture cards, which this can also be their own photographs, and they communicate using these pictures to form request a small needs. So you can see that the design has a portable hook attached to it so that they can carry it everywhere, wherever they're going. So this becomes an aid for communication. There is not required that every time the mother has to understand. So this really works. So these are all mid-tech strategies. Okay. Now from mid-tech, you can see onto your right upper corner is an app developed called Jello. This is an Indian product developed by IIT Kharagpur. Now they have come up with this, which is this is downloadable through your Play Store, Google Play Store. Now they have tried to incorporate, or I would say this is a beautiful app. They have tried to incorporate that you can see some yes, no, and this has file systems wherein more deeper levels of communication can be attained, even at a sentence level, using these pressing at these icons. Now, on to your left hand is another product developed called Avas. This is also an Indian product which is there in the international market also. Now, this is also a very user-friendly platform. It can develop sentences to which the person can communicate. Onto the left bottom corner is an app called Clicker Go. Now, this Clicker Go is even more a complex version of all of these. Avas is, of course, complex. Clicker is also equally. But this can go even inside the classroom. So there are students who go to the classrooms using Clicker Go so that, they even though they're not speaking, they are able to make up sentences and write down, understand, communicate. Okay. Now, I will also tell you what happens in our Indian society. See, there is a child with us who uses Avas as a platform on an iPad. Okay. Now, this child, not able to speak, she's 6 years old, goes to school, one of our Indian schools in Trivandrum, and she uses the Avas to write down her notes and communicate. Now, these parents are have invested on Abbas, upgraded it as the child is progressing, and is using a platform which is a higher platform. Now, but this parent is still not ready to make this child go out with this device for to a party or a marriage. No. See, but that you can imagine that at that point of time, the child's communication uh, is disturbed, and the child will feel very, very sad, of course. But in the school, they are allowing. So this is a kind of our culture has this problem of not accepting such things for communication or for any purpose. Um, we have the society wherein we are not ready to. I mean, for them, it is like if somebody is communicating, it is only through speech. So then that is another reason why in Indian society, these kind of developments are not often seen being used. They are there, but they are not. They are not highly being used. It's because there's a lot of stigma attached to it, and it's very, very difficult to make parents understand that. See, give your child some form of communication. Speech is not the ultimate. There are alternate ways. Okay, so that's why it is called as alternating augmentative communication. Okay. Uh, can we move forward?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, have a look at this device. So now I said that from mid-tech, we slowly progressed on. This is a very, very high-tech strategy. One of a very famous scientist have used is Stephen Hawking. This is a system, Toby Dynavox. Now, what this system does is that it uses eye tracking as a form to communicate. So with that eye track, the picture symbols are selected, and these picture symbols convert themselves into sentences. So the technology here have integrated many other components also here. From a simple touch press to, it is moved on to multiple folders. From multiple folders, it is moved on to a gaze tracking mechanism. Okay. Now, we don't have a Toby at NISH, but All India Institute of Speech and Hearing at Mysore has a Toby system. They use it for their patients. Since it's little costly, we have not procured. But there is yet another person who used Toby effectively in Trivandrum. Have you all heard about live-in suits just opposite to Central? Yes? Yes? No?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Just opposite to the Central Mall, a hotel called Live-in Suites. The owner is completely paralyzed. He passed away last year. He was controlling his whole business using this device. And he was bedridden. Onto the bed, this was mounted, and he was controlling whole of his business. And he ran a huge, I would say, an empire in Dubai as well as in Trivandrum using Toby. So you can imagine the amount of potential that this device was helping people with disability. Now, so this is how things have developed into communication. So initially, whatever technology was developed was for improving their communication. Now, we have also started looking at how it can be helped to improve social skills. So onto the social skills, it's very difficult. The reason is that we have emotions. So any system has to recognize the emotions, recognize the tone. Was I angry? Was I scared? What was that? What was it command? It also have to multiple sensors to understand in what position the speaker is standing to get to know what is happening with that person. Okay, so I want to introduce there are many different kinds of apps, but I would just want to introduce something called as Face social skill software games. Okay. Now, this is one software which have been reported in research and in literature and has been widely acclaimed as an evidence-based practice because they have done randomized trial and studies through this. So this you can see this diagram. So as I said, they're using eye tracking, like how we saw in Toby. But in Toby, we're not able to understand the emotions. But this understands the emotions as basically using different sensors. And to the next level, they've also incorporated a gaming component to this. Okay. Now, they've also incorporated a gaming component to this. So you're playing against another player, and this helps in developing scores. So naturally, any gaming element was given is for motivation. So the child would not leave and go, and holds on to this game. So that's a basic understanding that the developers of this Face software had. Okay. So I mean, just another picture about how Face works. Okay. Now, it's difficult, and you need to have high-end technologies to develop to understand emotions, integrate it into bigger platforms. So I mean, I just gave you one example, but you could go to the internet and find out what are the other applications. I gave that example also because they've done some studies on that. Okay. The next big area was on daily living skills. Some of them would not know how to take bath, how to brush. So an app that helps them to organize. See, one of the basic things what a person with autism would want to know is that they need a schedule. They're very particular about what they're going to do next and what is expected. Otherwise, they get too anxious. So every time in the therapy, what we do is that the child will have a scheduler, and we will use a visual scheduler, just a plain paper cards that will say you're coming in and you're going to do some nouns today or verbs, and then after that we're going to do some matching games. So there is a scheduler which is kept, and the child will exactly look at whether that is being followed. If that is there, they're more settled and they're more happy. So in the classroom, these kind of schedulers becomes very important. So initially, the scheduling was done. Traditionally using paper, pen. But now there are many schools which is incorporating. I don't think that's happening in India. It is not in India, but in developed countries, they have a simple tablet. Wherein the schedules are incorporated, and so the child would exactly know this is the time that he has to go out and eat. He doesn't have to look at others. So the scheduler by itself would tell them that this is what you have to do. So Life Skill Winner is one application that was developed to in this line. So that's got various things that a person would want to do. That includes putting a shoes, a laundry, setting a table to washing dishes, making a scheduler. I just took one screenshot and put it there, so you just can understand. It's basically organizing somebody through and helping that person move through that task. Okay. So, but I couldn't find much of improvement of technology being developed to accomplish this. Communication is one area where technology have hugely developed, and social skills is another area. But this area I couldn't find many apps or softwares that is running. Okay. So now we saw we saw Toby and how it's being used. Eye tracking devices are a wonderful way in which clinicians like me can understand where exactly this child's attention is getting focused. Okay, so for the past one whole decade, and there's a lot of research that have gone forward, and eye tracking devices have even took its place on assessment, because you will know that the child is looking at a person or looking at an object, and where is his interest being followed to. So I don't know about the background technology. It could be a sensor that they're using, and how the data is driven, and the output is given. But all what I can tell you is that as a clinician, if I would love to have such a system in my table when I am seeing a child. So this makes it very important to a person like me, because I know what way is a child receiving. There are many a times we are blind. I'm saying something. Is a child receiving, or is a child interested? Even if the child is not interested, if the child is able to track, or if I know that the child is still looking at something, I can continue to pursue him to move towards that task which I had kept as a goal to work out with. So this would be one request from my side to you to develop eye tracking devices.
So basically, ma'am, what you meant is by tracking the movement of the eyes, we are trying to see whether the child is interested in what we are talking.
See, can you see
What
this
is his
picture?
focus level?
Yeah, can you see this picture? We saw Toby. Toby is using an eye tracking system, isn't it?
Okay.
Now, but here I am able to control. I am able to know where exactly through a level of intensity that this child is looking. Say, suppose the child here is looking through tablet. So there are two pictures which is kept, and in this picture, the person is looking at the person there.
Okay.
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 Now, if I am able to know that in another system, I have another system, maybe I have another tablet of the same display, but if I am getting an indication through some coloring or some focus or something written there, this is where the child is looking, wonderful for me. Otherwise, how do I know? Even if maybe he's not verbal, he's not no, he is he's a little distracted due to something, but even then I know the child has answered to my question, or he's improving, he's at least in the slight in some level where we can help him to improve. So basically, in a topic, it is just one system. The person should be intelligent enough. In what I am trying to tell you is that there are two systems, and I'm able to get it. I'm able to get it through. I'm able to get the information through another one, another system where the color can be changed, or some intensity or some focus or dot can be there, which says that this is where the child looked.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So that's exactly. I just took it from a research paper.
So we are looking at a gadget level now, ma'am. So whenever the child is looking at the gadget, so it is not basically like a social skill. Usually, this children who are having this autism disorders, they may not have proper eye contact with other people. So we are not looking at that level. We are looking at like whenever what are their skills when they are looking at when they are seeing a tablet and reading something. Okay, what exactly is their focus? That is what we are. What
Yeah,
ma'am is
I
trying to
think,
say.
very interestingly, there are studies which says that a child with autism will not orient to the mother's voice, but would orient to a bird chirping, or some other noise.
Okay.
So right from the beginning, they are disinterested in any form of human, uh, uh, be it in the physical form, or be it in the auditory or visual. They are basically not interested. So in this tablet also, we are giving a person's picture there,
Okay.
along with an object's picture.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's the starting point. At least he should be looking at a picture. Maybe not even to a man, but at least to a picture.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So I just gave you this at a broad sense, but we can incorporate this onto a storyboard, which can be used for social skill training.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Okay. So what we understand is that the prevalent technological advancements that have come in the intervention for autism includes virtual agents, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality. See, I am not going into the immersive virtual reality and augmented reality because I think all that was covered. And Bright did a presentation, that's what I understand. So they would have explained about their immersive virtual reality measures that they are using, isn't it? So I'm not going to move into that. Okay, I want to introduce to you a couple of studies that have moved towards developing humanoids robots. This would be another area I as a clinician would love to have for my child. Okay, so now I've just put in two studies. I'll share the PPT with your Lani madam, and so you can have a look at these papers. One came out in 2007 and the other one in 2018. So why I took these two was that 2007, of course, the technological adaptations would have been limited. By 2018, a lot more would have been done, and it got published in robotics. So, which means that it might be a little difficult to doable at a college level. But have a look at this 2007 paper. Maybe these kind of technological backgrounds are now available in India to be doing. So, so have a look at these two papers and see whether what can be done. Okay. Now, this is a very successfully developed humanoid robot, and we've named this as Milo. Now, Milo inside a clinical room would help the child to teach him social skills at the level of expressing emotions, speaking to the child, being interactive, helping on with the imitation. See, why I put this 2007 study also here is because imitation is one of the very target behavior, or it's a very stepping stone towards anything. What do? You just simply imitate somebody else, right? You ride a bike. Before you start on with a learning procedure of your own, but you're seeing a person, you're trying to do the same things, right? But this is not happening with a child with autism. So, how helping a child to wave bye-bye or say hello is all dependent on how much of imitation that this person can do. So, a simple device that would do an action, but I'm sure that will require a capacity to have sensors, because they should be able to understand the gesture, and maybe a speech generating device also attached to it so that they would say something. So, but I think we can do this at a very minimalistic and a simple level. Okay, so basically, when they repeat these imitations over and over, clinicians like us would feel we'll have we at some point of time we will jump on to the next goal before even he kind of completely attaining this. So this is where technology comes in play with the clinician, because it is not completely avoiding a clinician's clinical values, but it can augment and facilitate, because imitations and some of these skills can be easily given over and over for practice using technological aid. And see, that can also be done through a tablet. But when there is a prototype of a human face or like a robot, it becomes even more interesting for the child, as the child would love to imitate like how that robot would do. bye. So simple things, I guess, can be incorporated. That's how they have started it. So, but Milo is a very successful humanoid robot used in United States for therapy, and it's called around 16 emotions, different facial features that it can do. So that's the interesting part of it. So you can see how a child speaks to this humanoid robot and how they communicate. Okay, so a lot of artificial intelligence, a lot of things required, but maybe we can develop things which are simpler versions of these. Okay, so now another thing. So a lot of research in going in robotics for people with autism, and there's a huge volume of research articles in these areas, and I suggest you should go through that and how we can develop minimal levels of robotics to help children with autism. Okay. Now, gaming, or I would say serious games, is yet another area which has been wonderfully explored for people with autism. And I personally think three areas which are very important when it comes to autism intervention. One is, as I said, eye tracking. Second is humanoid robots, and third is serious games. Okay. As I told you earlier.
What is the first one, madam? What is the first one?
Pardon?
First one which you mentioned now?
Eye tracking.
Eye tracking, okay.
Eye tracking, humanoids. When it comes to the robots, you have to incorporate many other things also. So I don't know how far that is going to be feasible. But for a clinician, humanoid robots are very important. The third thing which people like us would love to have is game-based learning platforms. Because we don't have to always say, oh, you're good, you did it that right. There is something that you have to improve. Every time there is a platform which motivates you through gamification or using serious games as a mode of learning. So there's a lot of conceptual development and knowledge development or whatever. There's a lot of learning that is happening through developing serious games for children with autism. So that's yet another area. So these people in 2019 published an article in Sensors. That's the journal name, which they have reviewed for the past 10 years how much have been developed, and they have found that in the game-based learning, three things are important in autism intervention. That, as I said, serious games, gamification, and e-learning. I also go through the same line because I, as a clinician, would also love to have these platforms for my children. Okay. Now, this particular study have found that this is a systematic review, so which means that they've taken articles of almost 180 articles, and they have tried to find out what different researchers have used, what game elements have different researchers used in intervention programs for ASD. So one is that all of their gadgets had, or all of their softwares had narrative options, telling a story. All of that they developed under the game-based learning, it all had a progression. So the player growth and development, it all had put in challenges so that the child could make some purposeful effort to overcome that. Competition improves motivation. So that's a win all those phenomena. Reward system, again, to motivate. Feedbacks, so that where exactly the change should happen. And another area which I found that every other game-based learning platform had was avatars. So continuously, even if whatever small thing that you're doing, if there are avatars, then they see through better. Now, collections, different levels, leaderboards. So basically, they are visual representations about what is happening. By the way, I forgot to tell you, this children with ASD or people with ASD are very good at visuals. So they love anything that is sketched out to them rather than being told to them. So visual board becomes very, very important. And that's the reason why the Israel defense is using them for aerial photography. Okay. And points, achievements, teams. So these are the general terms which came up in that research. Okay. So to sum up, game-based learning is a very huge platform that needs to be explored in autism intervention, which is these three platforms are not being used at NISH. We have stopped with our communication boards. We haven't gone up to a high-tech strategy of using even eye tracking. So this is an area where these three things would be areas where we would love you to explore enough. Okay. Now, this is yet another study. If you look into this, okay, there is something called uh, uh, a company called Empowered Brain. Now they have a face-to-face module, which is basically social skill development, communication. So they've integrated all of this. So this is an independent company. So imagine the amount of requirement. You should understand that when you're incorporating with something, which which means that there is you have to look into the economic viability. So this is a standalone a company developed for this purpose. So which means that there is a huge market. There are buyers. So otherwise, I don't know about the Indian market, but then you make a good stuff. It should be that it would be purchased. So they have game elements. They've incorporated game elements and artificial intelligence in form of graph rewards, attention data. They're collecting all of this. So and now the platform what they're using is the hardware that they're using is a Google Glass, and they're calling it as a smart glass because it also catches their program. Their base is onto a Google Glass. They have used a smart glass platform wherein they are able to catch even the emotions of another person so that the social skill can be improved. So I just read it in a research paper. They include cameras, microphone, accelerometer, gyroscope, and Wi-Fi Bluetooth connection. So that's what they use. So basically, the hardware that we use is a Google Glass, and so they have studied on the digital augmented reality intervention, and this has been given inside the classrooms to test and see whether how much is the person using such a device. So I think three important things again I wanted to talk to you about is about eye tracking, humanoid robots, game-based learning apps, and for children with autism. But I also wanted to tell you that user experience is important, and accessibility and usability tests should be done to ensure a positive experience. Otherwise, with whatever we may be a lot interested in developing something, but ultimately it need not be used if we are not checking on this accessibility and usability tests. So I think with that, I'm concluding with whatever little information that I had. And yes.
Yeah,
Thank you,
it was very good, madam. So I have a few questions. So first one, whenever we are going to develop something like this, the first requirement is the data collection, like what is the specific context or what exactly we require. So is NISH assisting any that kind of sort, like if you want to develop something, first of all, we need to know what exactly is the requirement.
Yeah, we would love to help you because this is one area that we would want to come up. technology, I mean, there is a future in this. I'm not saying it as a just for your project or nothing. That's not what I'm looking at. I'm telling it, see, because now maybe at least in India the labor is cheap, but the 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 need of a human being to always assist is getting too difficult. So assistive technology is one big area that will come up in the future.
It is very useful, madam. For me, it is very useful.
Thank you so much. I do not know anything with technology, but
Ma'am,
I
ma'am, one more doubt. Is it possible to ask now or?
yes, you can ask. I am not sure like how you are scheduled. You can ask any doubt as long as Lani madam is allowing. I will go.
Yes,
Okay,
please
ma'am.
go on.
Okay, thank you for the nice session. Actually, we are not much into autism, but like I was in the process of going for some project on autism, and we were thinking of the brain technologies, brainwave technologies. I think it is little out of context right now to ask, but still, do you have any related research going on in this, or can we think of a collaboration in that way?
Yeah. See, you know what?
Yeah.
Basically, what is being used currently is a 68-channel EEG recording that would study the brain changes and the electrical changes. But can you imagine a child of say 12 years undergoing an fMRI? And can we make an fMRI? No. So those fMRI and 68-channel EEG is such a long process. Cleaning up your channels itself will take almost an hour to clean up. Okay, so all that is a very hard process. Research is a very hard process. But personally, I would love if somebody can develop an infrared spectroscopy for me, wherein they're only looking at what is the level of oxygen
Okay,
uh,
ma'am.
that is being used. So
Mm-hmm.
if you can develop something at that level, very good. If you're looking at
Okay.
brain bio.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yes. Any other questions?
Questions from students?
Yeah, you can put it in the chat box. Yes, you do that. Okay, there are some maybe some things, so let's just see. Okay, somebody has asked about echolalia. Echolalia means the repetition of phrases. I don't think that is not useful. It's a very useful behavior from a person. So there is nothing much that you need to treat there, or you need to change. There's nothing to change, but you need to develop it further.
Suja, I have a question. Can you explain about the autism spectrum as a whole, in the sense that we know some children are in the lower end of the autism spectrum, and some are at the higher end, and some are in the medium level. But there is not much awareness among us about the different levels of autism that is possible. So when students think of projects, we require that awareness so that they will know which end of the spectrum they are targeting on, and they can present their projects in such a way. So whether it is a very general kind of project that they are envisioning, or whether it is something specific for high-end autism. So something like that, something about the autism spectrum as a whole.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Yeah, thanks, Lanny. Very good question. See, unlike how we find in intellectual disabilities. We know that a mild intellectual disability is educable. They can go to the school and they can maybe do some skill development. Unlike that, and then moderate and very severe intellectual disability, uh, they may be under the custodial care. So unlike that, what happens in autism is that, see, this child whom I explained through that published paper is actually a very severe autism. It's a very severe autism. Uh, he didn't have any functional capacities at all, but now he's writing books. So that is one most difficult thing. So when do we call this? So on a test, we can say that it is severe autism, but this child may be having an immense capability with numbers. Maybe they're good in maths, and let me tell you, most of them are very good in mathematics. Rote memorization, mathematics, they're very good in visualizing these digits, numericals, very fast processing at that level. So when they, at the same time, they are also under the severe autism spectrum. So then it becomes totally individualistic, and there are a group of children who, on a test, they would be appear to be very severe, but they may be good in reading, writing, and in mathematics. So planning, what we will look at is we will have some designs which are universal, that can compact with mild to severe grade, so that this content is in very different forms. This one way which we can use it. The second thing is that we develop it for communication or for social skill training or for say e-learning platform. Otherwise, what happens is that one single app or one single gadget for all of this may not be useful at all. So you have to be very specific. What task are you going to accomplish through this? And on this task, you will have simple to complex levels of increment progression that's happening. Will that help you?
Yes, yes. One is did you answer the question fully, or is there anything more, Suja?
No, I'm okay. I think I'm okay.
Okay. Can you give a little more perspective about the lower end of the of autism also, because we know that sometimes too much of gadget use may be bad for little children. So, supposing like some of us who heard this talk, so if some of us have any autistic people we know, so is it advisable to advise them to use more gadgets like that, or is it like if they are on the lower side, depending on where they are in the autism spectrum, should we advise them accordingly? Like, isn't it important that such a person has to be evaluated and given suitable treatment that way? So a little
Yeah,
more about that.
yeah, yes, definitely. It is definitely that way. At NISH, what we use is that we do not introduce. We have children coming in 1.5 years, 2 years. So at that point of time, what we pitch on is on social cognition development. So we make sure that the mother is with the child. There's a lot of emotional attachment that's happening with the mother. We give it through all naturalistic incidental teaching or learning is what we do at NISH. Okay. Uh, Western countries, even at that time at 2.5, they introduce gadgets, but at NISH we do not do that. We start with gadgets when, so initially it is more of a holistic approach that we do with the child, okay, say till around 5 years. So even in the first case study, till around 3.5 to 4 years, till the time that he was going to school, we looked at improving the child more holistically. So we given a time for this child to scaffold himself to know about the environment, to make the changes. And we started giving gadgets to specific skill development. I don't know
Okay.
whether that is more clear to you. This is
Yes.
specific freedom. See, you cannot have a gadget for everything. See, the child is using a gadget for daily living, child is using a gadget for social skills, the child is using a gadget for communication. There are integrated systems, but uh, instead of having too many integrated systems, look into that area where this child is completely weakened. So suppose if it's a communication that needs to be developed, that you have a robot that helps in aiding communication to this child. So some amount of emotions comes in there. Social skill training also comes in there. But at the same time, you don't have to be having that gadget exactly for all e-learning mechanisms, or his whole content need not be there. That can be taught at a different level. After the child's evaluations, you can think about whether that needs to be incorporated at a different, at later time. So definitely a clinician is a big part here, and so it's kind of a win-win situation for both. So technology is required, but it cannot replace the activities that a clinician or a parent is doing. Both are equally important in developing a child. So I don't think technology can replace. That is not what I said, but technology can augment.
Yes, I think that is something that all of us should know and understand. So at NISH, they focus on the human interactions first, and after that, they go on or ask or get help from gadgets and get help from engineers like us. So supposing we know any person, we can always ask them to first get an evaluation and continue therapy at all costs, so that the child is really and truly brought back to the normal track. Am I right, Suja?
Yes, yes. So
Okay.
there is another question wherein in Japan there is, though it is a though it is a country where with the highest technology penetration, but it also has a lot of suicidal and yes, of course. See, anything can be misused, isn't it? So what we are looking at is an intelligent way of augmenting our lives through technology. You know, simple cell phone have helped you in a lot of ways. In sense like, you know, you are coming back from home, and you know now your mother is able to call you at any time just to know that you're safe. So that is ahead only because we could use technology in its useful sense. But there are many ways technology is used in the most misleading ways as well, isn't it? So it all depends on the personal way in which you take a development. It's not that you know you are closing your eyes, but as a as a responsible citizen, uh, a human being, you should be wise and intelligent enough to take on what is best for you. See, suppose it's just like how you have alcohol. See, there is alcohol everywhere, but how intelligent and responsible are you in taking it determines how your life will succeed. So that's a very simple logic.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I hope no more questions from the audience side.
Yeah, I would have to get a feedback
Okay.
if that is if something is said so that I can correct, or maybe there is something more that you wanted me to say. I could always do that. So if there is a possibility, just give me a feedback. Thank you. Just the line should be fine. Maybe you can Google me, or you can mail me afterwards.
Okay, all of you, please, students, all of you, please feed the attendance and feedback form. It has been shared in the chat box. So don't forget to fill it in. And if there are more questions, you can also enter it in the Google form, and we'll share the questions to Suja. Okay, you can carry on, Deepti.
Thank you, ma'am. I, on behalf of the Electronics and Communication Department, MBCET, would like to express a profound gratitude to Dr. Suja K. Kunnath for sparing her valuable time and joining us for sharing her valuable knowledge and information to the participants of the Internship on Assistive Technology 2020. Thank you so much, ma'am, for making the session so interactive. I would also like to thank all our faculty members and our HOD ma'am who put in their effort to organize this session. I also thank all the participants for being here and actively interacting throughout the session. I once again thank you all for being here. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you from my